Big Mike,
Hey Dave, how are you?
what's going on, dude?
Not much, man. Just waiting for the rain to pass here in California. We got more rain this year than we've gotten in the last 10.
Wow, yeah, that's true, no question. And well, great. I'm super glad to, just the first, a big aloha and mahalo, my brother, and welcome back, and
Oh,
appreciate it.
thanks, man. Thank you. It's great. It's going to be great to get back. Haven't been there in a little while.
Yeah, no question. And are you still living on Maui? Last time that we talked was a long time ago, and you were living there then.
Yeah, we were living full time in near Lahaina there, in Lahaina technically. We were just out, on their way to the airport in Launiapoco area. But yeah, no, I haven't been living there as much. I was coming to the mainland more and more, and my wife was jealous because I was visiting the kids more than her. So she dragged me back, kicking and screaming, to the mainland, and we've been here. But we've kept our place there. We just have a little ohana there that we go to, and when we get away and get a chance.
That's cool.
But like I say, it's never enough. It's place is such a place in our hearts to be there. And living there was a whole other experience. It was really a wonderful 5 years or so we were there.
Well, is that how long it was? And you had your buddy in the band nearby. Just a few. I guess it can be, depending on the traffic, it could be a little far away to get to Pat.
Yeah, well, you know how it is on any of the islands. It's like all of a sudden the other side of the island is like another country.
Right.
You rarely get there.
Especially on Maui with that one couple of the roads over there for sure. But well, it makes sense you had to be back there. You've been doing a lot of busy stuff. One of them, I'm sure a lot of folks who are listening to the show would dig that event, the Music Cares Person of the Year event. It was on. I was just looking at your page for fun stuff. I know that folks in the audience for All Things Considered would dig. They were honoring Berry Gordy and Smokey Robinson. You were performing at that, right?
Yeah. I just sang a song at it with a bunch of other people, performed that night, and it was a lot of fun. It was great fun to see the Temps and the Four Tops, get up on stage, and just that stuff is so timeless. There's just something that seems super important about that music when I hear it live,
Right.
especially from the artists who made the records in the first place.
Right, and you're so associated in many people's minds too with a connection to that, so it makes sense. And now I'm assuming in your long, both love of that kind of music and long career, have you been around Smokey Robinson before? Do you have any cool Smokey stories, or did you get to say hi to him or give him some love that night?
Well, when I did the Motown records, I got the great opportunity to meet most of the writers who had written the stuff that I had done. Leon Ware, Smokey, Stevie Ashford and Simpson, Valerie Simpson, and Nick Ashford, all the different writers for Motown, and that was a great opportunity for me to just kind of meet those guys. And the thing is, they're just such great people. I think people that have been around that long, they kind of have a certain kind of complacency with the fame of it all. They're just regular people. For whatever the highlight of their careers was, they've made timeless music, so they're forever, kind of evergreen in terms of what they created. But I think they kind of tend to lay back a little in their later career. So it was kind of neat, kind of a neat example for someone who's written songs to, you kind of get up into that hamster wheel of writing music, pop music, and you realize that, at this point in my life, I should only be writing stuff I really want to write and not worry about, writing for this or for that or for different artists or looking for that hit record anymore. It's not really what's on my agenda. Even being out with the Doobies now, we feel, I think it's unanimous. We're just kind of doing this for the fun that we have together and the relationship that we've had with this audience, especially those guys that kept going in the last 10, 15 years. They've been out there every season, concert season, playing for these people that come time and time again. They come every year, and it's like it really is truly like they're old friends, And So we're kind of enjoying that aspect of it, where we almost feel like we recognize people in the audience. A lot of them we do.
Sure. No, that's that kind of. Well, that's a funny thing that you said a few things there. Both the family kind of vibe that the Doobie Brothers music. It's wild to hear you note how much it does embody that. Because for fans, because I was talking just to my boss Bill, who grew up in the not far from the Philly area where I grew up, and that music just dominated the radio. And the two of us were talking about how, like at stations like WMMR, for example, back in the late 70s, early 80s, how the place the Doobie Brothers had, and the memories that when you talk about old friends, the songs kind of become that to you. When you hear these old songs, they take you back. They're very much like comfort food or something like that. And then you said something in the beginning of your rap about how it's having fun and getting together and having fun together. And the Doobies gig came with some pretty fun, high-profile appearances. Pat, because of Pat's association with Hawaii, he's told us about David Guest, the late publicist, and some of the cool things that he did. One of them you were really a part of, and you look great on it. A 2-part episode on television. This gigantic.
Oh yeah.
What's happening?
What's
it's
happening?
called. And you talk about fun when you were talking about having fun. A huge part of Doobie's history. If you can tell that story for us, perhaps from when you first were even introduced to the idea, your awareness of the show, even like what was this, and then any kind of fun stories of actually filming it.
Well, I think for us it was just, we had this crazy publicist, David Guest, and he would come up with these wacky ideas, and he, for some reason, he had somehow, formulated this idea and said that we should be on What's Happening, and of course, we've thought to ourselves, what self-respectable rock band would go on a TV comedy, episodic series? No matter how much we enjoyed it, it was just like that was like a taboo thing, like doing commercials was back then for any rock band. You'd never catch rock bands doing like liquor commercials or telephone commercials. It wasn't too long ago. I was in London, and this bus went by, and it was London, and the sign was "London Calling." The old
Clash song.
Yeah, and. I'm thinking, boy, those guys, whoever many of them are left, the rest of them are rolling in their grave. Just the thought of being on the side of a bus in Britain, with their song, and but there wasn't one, nobody like the Eagles or any of the acts that you knew would ever do anything that commercial, without feeling like they were selling out. And we just kind of dove in with both feet, thinking, well, it's so wacky. It kind of sounds like fun, and we had a great time with the cast, and we did like a 2-episode, 2 weeks in a row of this episodic story that turned out to be kind of fortuitous. Really,
Bootlegging.
Yeah, it was like a something that most people had never heard of. Then it became like shortly after that, it was like like Napster and all these things that came from these different ways of selling music, and making sure the artists didn't get paid.
Were the cast of that show, were they impressed though to meet you guys? Like when you came on the show, was it because you were an established band at that time?
Yeah, we had fun with the older kids, on the show. But Dee wasn't too impressed. I don't think she knew who we were.
Yeah, she gave you a hard time on the air. I remember one of the bits. I can't remember what she said. But.
Yeah, and Fred Berry was from St. Louis, so we had that in common.
Nice. That's very cool. And that's when I think about the kinds of, those are the neat associations that you've got. Same with You Belong to Me. That's co-written with Carly Simon. Talk about a name so many people have probably had some sort of association with in your life. Now, how did you even get to know her? Not that you don't know a lot of cool people, and is there any cool story of writing that or spending time with her?
Well, that all came from Ted Templeman, our producer at the time. Carly had come by our sessions when we were doing, I think it was Taken to the Streets. She happened to be in town.
Huh.
Her and James were married, then they lived in New York. She was in town, I guess, getting ready to do another album. And Ted was going to produce it, and so she came by the studio while we were recording "Keeps You Running," and she would like the tune a lot, and so she recorded the tune on her album. And the Doobie Brothers were we were the rhythm section for her. We kind of came up with a different arrangement for her, and with Ted, and so he brought us into the studio to cut the track for her, and it was great fun. From that, her and I, when I came up with this melody and some chords for "You Belong to Me." I really didn't have any words at all. I just kind of had the phrase "You belong to me," but I had no idea what it meant, And I just, sometimes you just come up with a phrase like ham and eggs or any words that sound right, and sometimes that becomes the idea of the song, sometimes not. But "You Belong to Me" was just a place for to kind of show where the chorus was and placekeeper, and. So I gave the tape to Ted, and he goes, "You should have Carly write these lyrics." And I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, let me send it to her." I was thrilled that he would even think that, or endeavor to do that. And I never talked to Carly the whole time. Ted sent her the cassette. She sent the cassette back with some tablet, like notebook paper, handwritten these lyrics, and they were great, and. I just sang them when we cut the track. I did a vocal, got the lyrics right, and again, we hadn't talked this whole time. It wasn't until she had a hit with the song some 4 or 5 years later that I was sitting in my house and I'm listening to the record, and she had like a #1 record with it, And I'm thinking, wow, it's so exciting. And I realized I had never talked to her the whole time we wrote the song. So I thought, well, I should give her a call at least and just say congratulations or something. I felt like such a Nimrod, not having talked to her at all. I was saying thank you in the first place when she wrote the lyrics. And we were just so busy, we just kind of went in and cut it. I didn't see her in all those years. So I called her, and we had a good laugh about the fact that, we should, if we write another song, we should probably make a point not to talk to each other, and we might get lucky and have another hit.
Follow that formula again. That's cool. What a great story that is. That's very interesting. People will no doubt get some satisfaction. Another another very important woman that you duetted with, Aretha. Did you record that together in person, Aretha Franklin?
I didn't record with Patty together because she was in New York and I was out here. And I don't think I recorded with Aretha in the studio. I performed the song with Aretha at the Grammys one year, and I believe it was Grammys, and then I performed it with her on a video also, and she was, just so great, I really, it was such a thrill to meet her, I had grown up on her music, and with Patty, same thing. We didn't record it in the studio together. I just sang to her voice on tape, but we first time we got to perform it was on the Tonight Show, and neither one of us had sung the song together. I mean, we hadn't sung the song together in that whole time. So our first performance was, on nationwide television.
This is Patti LaBelle you're talking about?
Yeah, with Patty. Yeah.
And you how much rehearsal? But before you go on to do the actual to cut it on the TV, you must sound check it and play it a little, no? With Patty's, they sent me like a rough mix with her voice on it, and and then when I got together with Bert, I think I got together with him maybe once before we went in the studio. He kind of showed me where he felt I should sing, and so I just kind of learned the song from her vocal, and when we got to the studio, just kind of went from there, and just. Took a few stabs at it, and but what was good was it was kind of a good thing that I was able to start the voice on tape because I didn't have to try when you sing live with someone you kind of have to find that exchange and that pattern and that you're going to have vocally where I kind of knew where her voice was, so I could kind of just sing to her voice and
make it, it was easier somehow for me to make it sound like a duet, and because she wasn't going to do anything different the next time, you know what I mean?
Right,
And
right. And that makes
so that was kind of I kind of preferred that really, and I'm not sure I would ever want to go on one with Patty, as vocalist, but so it was kind of good to know what she had on tape, and then just kind of adjust my vocal to that.
what huge and these are people when you were first, because you mentioned it, and it's part of your bio, I guess. When you were a kid, how did the Motown thing just enter your life? I guess because you said you had grown up with it. How did it enter your life, and were those two ladies significant in the artists that were critical for you at that era?
Yeah, I was a little older when I heard Patty, but my earliest memories of Aretha, I was in a band in St. Louis, and we were picking up our girl singer, for a gig, and me and one of the other guys in the band, and and she wasn't ready, so we went into her apartment. She was still putting on her makeup and stuff, and she had this record on her record player. She goes, "You guys got to hear this record. It's so great," and it was Aretha's first album, Never Loved a Man or something, and I remember I was so taken with the production and her voice, because up until that point you really hadn't heard most female soul singers. There was a lot of orchestration around their voices. It was like the girls who sang for Motown. Those records were kind of highly produced. You didn't hear a lot of women just singing the blues or singing, while they're playing the piano and just a rhythm section behind them. That was just something so different and so kind of unique, and that record was just so close to the bone of gospel. They kind of let her be her on that record, and she did, I guess, in Muscle Shoals, because her earlier stuff that she recorded in New York was great, but it was very like big orchestras and more like Etta James or some of the women that you think of when you think of that period,
Right.
where there's strings on the record, or Brenda Lee. They were always very highly produced and typically orchestrated with strings and horns and stuff. So here's this record of this girl that was out. She's just singing like a bird. It's just so powerful, her voice. And it's just her at the piano, really, with the Muscle Shoals rhythm section behind her, and almost like you might have heard her in church, and it was just such a captivating sound.
So it's a big part of, you're saying that you're giving a sort of explanation for how you were really drawn to this stuff, and that's one example.
Yeah, one example. And then, for the rest of like the Motown stuff, remember one of the first songs I really that got me, it was Since I Lost My Baby by the Temptations, and David Ruffin, I think, singing it. And I went to hear a friend of mine's band play, and I was in a band at the time too. We were like middle school or something, And then he had this great gig at a EJ Corvette shopping center, which was that was like the big time to us. Like, wow, you mean your band's actually playing at the shopping center, in the food court? Wow, and so I went down to hear his band play, and they were kind of a soul band. They had three horns, and and the singer was a guy I knew from junior high, and he was a great guy. He was heart of gold. Everybody loved this guy, but I didn't know how well he sang. And I went to hear the band. One of my friends was one of the other guys in the band, and when I heard him, I just was so jealous. I just thought, oh, this stuff, the songbook that they got that they're playing is just so good. It's all these great songs that, some of them I had never heard, and some of them I knew of, but we were playing like the Kinks and Beatles stuff and Rolling Stones. We were kind of into the British invasion, but then I heard these guys play, and it was more American artists, R&B stuff, and
Wow.
I really, in that moment, I remember thinking, wow, that's kind of that's the music I want to do, there's just something more sophisticated about it that it really attracted me, you know. And so I was talking to the singer after that. I said, "Man, you guys sound good. I love the songs you're doing." You know, he goes, "Oh yeah," he goes, "We're going to look up some more of the Motown stuff." I said, "Yeah, some of them I haven't really heard." So he took me down to the record department and played me a bunch of Motown records, you know, and that was my first introduction to, you know, Motown. I didn't really have my ear to the ground for Motown at that point in my life, and
Then that happened.
one day I just kind of changed my whole outlook on what I wanted to do in terms of performing as a singer, you know.
I love it. And what a great story, because it bridges the whole thing from the rock and the Kinks and the Beatles, and because it gives some explanation for how you, excuse me, for how, you know, you've been associated with this for a long time, and still are, and just great, and associated with collaborating with people too throughout your life. And I got an idea for you. Maybe you can get in on the next Ozzy Osbourne album. You hear his Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton collaborations he just had? Both of them #1 hits.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you should check.
Great.
Dial
Good
that.
for Ozzy.
Are you an Eric Clapton fan?
Oh, definitely, sure, and Jeff Beck for sure.
Yeah, check it out. Go on YouTube when we're done rapping, and you'll hear Clapton rocking like he hasn't in decades, and it went to #1 on the radio. But anyway, it was just a funny because he had those two guys. I was thinking, man, Michael McDonald, that'd be an interesting collab on that. I was thinking of this other thing before I forget about the David Guest, just because I wanted to see if there were any memories of it. One time Pat said he was running down a whole list of stuff, and I never pried. We went on to something else, but he was talking about times that some of David's friends would show up at your rehearsals, your concerts, and elsewhere. And he seemed to remember Michael Jackson would show up sometimes, and other Jacksons even, at rehearsals or concerts. Was that an era you were in the band? And do you remember any of that?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, he used to show up at my house in the Valley with Michael, you know.
Tell us a cool story. Michael's like one of the most talented dudes ever. Was so you know, I am always fascinated by him. What is a cool memory of this?
Well, you know, one time we actually they invited us up on stage at one of their concerts in San Francisco, and we kind of sang, and we did some events for David with the Jacksons more than a couple times, and it was always fun because they were a great bunch, a great family, great bunch of people, and yeah, David was he was a character, and I think, you know, he was one of those friends that, you know, you didn't know whether to suffocate him or hang out with him.
Yeah. What show you guys got up on stage with the Jacksons or with Michael solo?
No, it was with the Jackson 5. And, they were performing at Cow Palace, I think, in San Francisco, and we came out on stage, and you know, it was interesting, you know, because they're doing steps and stuff, and we're standing there like a bunch of bumps on the log in the background. You know.
Still cool though, man. Just to say you're there on the stage with the and any interaction there. I'm assuming though, when he brings us, tell us the story. He brings him to your house.
Oh yeah, well he had just, you know, it was, you know, you got to know this guy David. He came in, and the first thing he's bragging about making Michael get out and put gas in his car. He goes, and he's laughing, and he goes, can you believe he did it? He goes, I made him get out and put gas in my car. And you know, and Michael's just kind of like, you know, kind of a carefree kid. You know, he's not kind of particularly interested in this conversation one way or the other. And you know, I was kind of surprised to see Michael Jackson walk in my house, believe me. But then, I'm sitting there trying to. I'm thinking, well, what the hell are you talking about? He goes, no, yeah, I just made him put gas in my car. And he goes, the gas station owner couldn't believe it. And, you know, so I'm talking to him. So it winds up, we were talking for a while. My sister, Maureen, was there. And I guess Janet was probably about 10 years old then, you know, Janet Jackson.
Right.
And so my sister winds up babysitting Janet a couple times, you know, because David referred her to Michael for, because in case they were the family was out or something, or, you know, and for whatever reason, my sister actually, one of her to her credit, she was Janet Jackson's babysitter for a couple times or something.
Wow.
But we just kind of happened to know those guys through David, pretty much.
Was it fun hanging with
friends,
him?
Tito and Dee Dee and all the my wife went to school with Jackie Jackson.
Oh, wow. Well, it's such a small world like that. But I mean, when he was hanging there and you had him all to yourself talking, and so it's just you, Michael, and your sister, and I mean, how many people are there when David brings him over?
It was just the four of us. I was just kind of working at home, and David came by to show off Michael, that he was out running around with Michael Jackson, I guess. And but he's just such a pleasant guy. It was fun to meet him and talk to him. And I said, don't make him put gas in his car. He'd get out and get his own gas. But but you kind of had to know David. Everything with David was, kind of like it was all for shock value. So.
Pat,
I was just kind of sitting there going, I can't believe I'm sitting in my house talking to Michael Jackson.
No, how long was he there for?
I think they were there for an hour or more, just kind of.
Can you imagine?
They obviously had nowhere to go,
Right, killing time at Michael McDonald's place. And you're just like, well, maybe I can show you my Motown record collection. Some souvenirs I got along the way. You could talk, hey, I can tell you about what's happening. Well, that's really cool. You had some, that's what I meant. Pat told us also about the time that he was at the, I forget the name of that club in Chicago. And he was there with, they were seeing Al Green in concert, and David, all of a sudden, Al made Pat get up on stage impromptu and play with him on the thing.
Yeah, I mean, David used to like to do that to us because, I think just to make us look stupid, I guess. But but Al was one of David's clients too. And, he drugged me to Al's church when it opened in Memphis.
You've got an Al story too.
It was Al was a pastor of a church in Memphis,
right?
And David was friends with Willie Mitchell and his wife. Willie's wife wasn't particularly fond of David, but they were friends, And David was always kind of pimping people, He's always kind of he was David, just the way he was. And so he had dinner at Willie's house the night before in Memphis, and he wanted me to go with him. And, something told me, I don't want to be in a social situation with David, with people I don't really know, because he's going to embarrass me. He's going to start, with his shtick, And so I just begged off. I said, no, I'm going to stay in tonight. And so he went there, and apparently he did make a big scene, and, Willie, David, like we all know David, like Pat knows David, we were used to him, and we didn't really think of it one way or the other. But to people that didn't know him, he could be really obnoxious.
Right, sounds it.
So he there was this other pastor, or their pastor and his wife were having dinner. It was just a small dinner party. It was Willie and his wife and their pastor and their wife. And so the pastor's wife was talking to David. And she goes, so what do you do, David? He goes, well, I'm a pastor also. And Willie's wife is, Willie Mitchell's wife is like looking at David like, don't you dare, and she was, not happy with him, and he just starts going into this shtick, that he just starts, and he goes, yes, I have my own congregation. She goes, oh, what's the name of your church? And he makes up some ridiculous name, and apparently Willie's wife just lost it, and just kind of screamed out, he's not a pat, using a few expletives, and David's like, he's just hysterical, and Willie, of course, is trying to just do damage control at this point because his wife's about to kill David Guess. I was never so glad I didn't go somewhere. But anyway, then the next morning we went to see Al's church, and apparently, he makes Al get me up there to sing. I don't know any gospel songs necessarily, very well, so I know them when I hear them, but I don't know them to know all the words and everything. So all of a sudden Al, Mike McDonald's going to cut my brother Mike McDonald's here. He's going to come up and sing a song. And I'm like, what? So he says, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I guess People Get Ready. Do you know People Get Ready? So the band kind of knew People Get Ready, and I sang People Get Ready, only to realize that was the song Al was going to sing that day for the opening of his church.
Oh.
So, this is, again, one of those moments with David that you're lucky to get out alive.
You got some good ones, Mike. I mean, you really do, brother. You really, you're armed over there.
He was a fun guy. He was married to Liza Minnelli in the end.
Right. And a Hawaii resident, too, we should add. We should, at some point.
That's right. He was. You're right.
Important, too. And he was the one who orchestrated that, just on that note of bringing all the pieces together, that unbelievable, star-studded 2003 New Year's Eve event at the Blaisdell Arena, where it was, let me see if I can remember all the names here. It was Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, Shaka Khan, Isaac Hayes, the Doobie Brothers. You were there that night? Did you?
Yes, yeah, I was there.
Am I missing some of the other? Do I have most of the bands?
I think so.
Because Isaac Hayes, that was so heavy, and Shaka. And
Petula Clark, I think, was on that.
Right, a few others, right. That's why I was hoping you could fill in whatever I could.
Yeah, Michael Jackson was there, if I'm not mistaken.
Listen to you.
Yeah, there was much, but all his parties were always great. I mean, in spite of him, they were always, fantastic. He'd be sitting there at the table, and all this, he'd have these actresses and actresses. You were amazed they were still alive, and they were like huge in the 30s and 40s, And I'll never forget, I was sitting at one of those dinners, and all of a sudden they're carrying Betty Davis out of the room. I thought she had died, right there in the room, Apparently she just passed out at the table. And then she came back in and made a big entrance when she came back in, just like old Hollywood, Everybody clapped, But, there was always like all these people, Cesar Romero, Anne Jeffries, who was still a beautiful woman in her 80s. A lot of these women were just gorgeous in their 80s.
And these were friends of his? Clients?
These are all people that, he had befriended over the years, Red Buttons. I mean, you couldn't believe the people he knew, it was crazy.
That is very, and I guess a final one, because we could be milking you all day. Your stuff is really gems, gem upon gem over here. You're like a jewelry store dealer with all of your.
Get me while I still remember it.
Well, this David Guest stuff I've always thought is a mountain of good material, and I guess when you think similar but a different kind of question back to the Doobie Brothers, because you yourselves have you've been such a staple, like I was saying before. So many of the tunes, and they can be from your era when you joined the band, or the era before that, which you're obviously been representing for a very long time as well. They're songs that people have been tight with. They're songs that pick us up when we're sad, or we have special memories of hearing them in difficult times. And so those shows have probably brought a bunch of cool people to them as well. Whether David helped bring them, that could be part of it. But when you think of your own concerts and fun, maybe incongruous, they could just be incongruous, ones that make great stories of people coming to Doobie Brothers concerts, and either Mr. Guest got them up there to sing, or you yourselves just ended up having some fun interactions with people, because no doubt your places have been melting pots along the way.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And like I say, at those parties, we got to perform with all kinds of people. Dionne Warwick. I mean, I like I say, I grew up on that music, Burt Bacharach and Dionne Warwick, and Gene Chandler was at one of them doing the Duke of Earl, and it was just so much fun to get on stage with these people, and you're playing these songs that did I ever in my life think I'd be doing "Walk On By" with Dionne Warwick, or always something there. It was just so great to get those opportunities. And,
Burt Bacharach?
I'll be forever grateful to David for that.
Burt Bacharach was one of them. Mike, was Burt Bacharach? Was
Burt Bacharach was at a lot of those parties. Yeah.
Wow, and just hanging out, like casually getting to talk to him.
Oh yeah, Dionne came and sang. And one thing about David, if you got invited to his party, he was going to work you. And you were going to work. And when I went to when I got invited to his wedding, I was working. It was like everybody had to play, and everybody. I was one of the groomsmen, and that was a nightmare. But it was just it was one of those great Hollywood stories. I don't know what happened. That the wedding was postponed for like hours because I think some of the people in the bridesmaids and grooms, his best man was Michael Jackson, and the maid of honor was Liz Taylor.
Wow!
And they found out that David had made some deal to sell all the photos for like over $1 million to People magazine, and so they decided, not without us getting some of that, So they had their lawyers come down to the sanctuary, and they had a 2-hour meeting, while the rest of us are all sitting around, twiddling our thumbs. And I said to Tito, I said, "Any idea what's going on? Is the wedding going to happen?" He goes, "Yeah, as soon as we figure out, how they're going to split up the money from People magazine." So, it's one of those kind of crazy Hollywood deals.
That one wasn't in Hawaii, was it?
No, that was they got married in New York.
Okay. Right, because I know they had the connection here. Wow, that's a Michael Jackson. So you're there, and Michael Jackson's his best man.
Yeah, he was the best man. Yeah.
Unbelievable. What a weird thing to get to see. Well, there you go, folks. I don't think we can leave it on a more eccentric and odd note than that. And Michael, he sang, though, with you guys, though, on stage. I guess my question had been people sitting in with the Doobie. So did Burt Bacharach or Michael Jackson ever actually get on stage and play with you guys?
Well, Michael did. Yeah. It did a couple of those events.
Okay.
Now, Burt, I think, just came and hung out.
Okay.
He didn't really perform, but he was a client of David's also. David was his publicist for a while. Paul Anka was another act that David was his publicist. And so we got to meet all those guys, Paul and I went on to write some songs together. And then I had met Burt earlier, but he and I recorded some stuff together. And I think I met Burt originally through David.
Right. Well, it sounds like it with his Rolodex of folks that he'd be bringing around to you, and no real incongruous one though that just sticks out as a. I mean, I guess those are incongruous enough.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of the beauty of it. It was all pretty incongruous.
Yeah.
Not exactly people I would have, I don't
expected.
know if I would have ever met Cesar Romero, for instance, but. Robert Wagner or people like that, but through David, I met a lot of those people.
Well, let's go out with one. Let's go out with one of the tunes that you guys would do with Michael. What's a song you remember? And that'll be the song that we end it to because it's a good theme. And what's one you remember? Looking over at him, going, "I can't believe I'm playing blah 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 with Michael Jackson."
It was off of his solo album that we got up and performed with, but it was with the Jacksons on stage.
Oh, no Doobie Brothers. I'm sorry, I thought it was a Doobie song. You didn't play Doobie songs with him.
Oh, no. Let's see. I think Michael might have got up and sang "Taking It to the Street" with us once or twice.
Oh, yeah? How about we do that?
At one of David's events,
Is that a good one to, I'm trying to think
actually, I do know one that he sang. Just listen to the music. Jackson came up and
You broke up a little bit. Say that one more time.
All the Jacksons sang on "Listen to the Music" with us when we did a fundraiser at the Shriners Club in L.A. And we had the Jacksons on the stage with us. Kenny Loggins and the Jackson Five singing and listening to the music with us.
That has to put a smile on your face to remember that, or you've just done too much stuff.
It does, actually, yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking, how can a man not smile remembering having Kenny Loggins and the Jackson Five? And about what year is that, Mike?
That would have been about 1979 or 1980.
Okay. Well, listen to the music. We can't go wrong with that. That's a good one for you. And I give you a huge hug and a high five. And I can't tell you, man, you got a lot of great stories. I'm grateful we documented some of them today, but you're a great storyteller, too. So just know that on behalf of all the folks who you've given a really good chuckle to today, it's medicine, my brother. And I give you lots of gratitude. Thank you for it.
Oh, thanks, Dave. Thanks for your time. And hope to see you when we get there, man. I hope you come down to the show.
Nah, I will. I'm looking forward to it, and it'll be great to see you again. And I hope you had fun today. Was this okay to keep you remotely entertained?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Stay safe, Brother Mike, and I appreciate it. And it's going to be great having you guys in town, and just great stories, man.
All right, man. We'll see you soon.
Take care. Aloha, dude.
Aloha.